as we look at all of this, the Prime Minister is talking about an abundance of caution, in effect, which begs the question, if we have to be that cautious, why are we changing the rules in the first place?
So it's always going to be a balance, and that was the whole point of the roadmap when the Prime Minister announced it on the 22nd of February. There were these 5-week staging posts, and the reason that it took 5 weeks was that we had to look at the evidence. Today, I'm very pleased that we're reopening, but clearly, in order to reopen on the 21st, we're going to have to see the data. Now, there's nothing that we've seen so far that suggests that we're going to have to postpone that. But of course, there has to be some flexibility because we don't know what the coronavirus will do.
I mean, it is this strange situation where, I mean, Sir Mark Walport told Sophie Ridge yesterday, and he's a former Chief Government Scientific Advisor, say, my advice is just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should. Well, in essence, when things are reopened, people aren't going to pay much heed to that, are they? Because people want to get out, they want to hug a loved one.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely understandable, but it's not that different what Sir Mark was saying to the Prime Minister's urge for caution. So, yes, things are being opened up, but people should have common sense. They should use judgment. And I think if we act in a reasonable way, there's no reason to just suppose that we can't reopen the economy entirely on the 21st of June. I think there's got to be a degree of common sense, bit of caution, and not people, people shouldn't be running away, getting too exuberant, I suppose. I think we just need to be measured and cautious.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is when you rely on the great British public to exercise that common sense, well, that's all well and good, and a lot of people will, but we all know there will be people who won't. I mean, and this is potentially where you get your problems and your hotspots, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, there's always a balance, as I say, and you can't compulsorily lock everything down forever. That's why we had a roadmap. We want to reopen in a safe, cautious way, and I think this is a good way to do that.
I mean, will you be heading out to a restaurant? Have you made plans? Have you made plans to meet up and give some people a hug that you haven't seen for a while?
I'm going to be back in my constituency. I can't name the pub, but it'll be a lot of fun, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it'll be moderate. I mean, I'm not going to be there with huge hosts of people.
No. Well, no, I'm sure not. You would have done a lot of trouble if you overdid it. Can we have a look at the travel situation? Because obviously, again, a lot of people very pleased about that. And being able to sort of head abroad for the first time in a long time. But do you agree with Matt Hancock, who said just don't travel to one of the amber countries like Spain?
Yeah, I think Matt, obviously being Health Secretary, is firmly on top of the detail and the numbers. And I think what he says makes sense. Again, people are allowed to do things, but it doesn't mean that everybody should be going away at the same time. I think the urge for caution makes sense. I think what Matt is saying is that, yes, you can go to an amber country, but it would probably be advisable at this stage not to.
I mean, you sort of wonder if it would have been more sensible if that's the general approach, the advice is don't go, then why not just sort of ban travel to any country that isn't on the green list?
Well, of course, you could be ultra safe and just simply forget about forget about easing up and just continue with the lockdown. We've decided that wasn't the right course. Again, there's a balance between opening things up, urging people to exercise caution, and opening things up safely, and that's a good balance, I think.
But in terms of that caution, I mean, you'll be aware that there's a fair amount of concern over how we reacted to the India variant. I mean, there's Civil Aviation Authority figures suggest 900 people arrived every day from India between April the 2nd and April the 23rd, but it wasn't even on the red list, so they weren't even being put in in hotel accommodation.
They had to quarantine and self-isolate, and then on the 23rd of April, we put it on the red list before the variant had actually been identified.
Are we confident that the vaccination programme is enough to deal with the Indian variant? Have you got any information on that?
Again, Matt Hancock said yesterday very clearly that he had a lot of confidence that the vaccination does work against the Indian variant. But of course, we can't definitively prove anything until we've eased up and see what the actual data shows. And that's why we've got a degree of flexibility. But there's nothing in the evidence now that we've seen that suggests the vaccine isn't very effective against the Indian variant.
I mean, obviously, we know that the state of vaccination in this country is very good. But in hotspots like Bolton, where there is real concern over the Indian variant, particularly in a place like Bolton, they seem to be in a position now where they're vaccinating anybody who wants it. They're sort of encouraging anyone to come forward. Do you approve of that? Does the government approve of that?
No, I think the government has very clear guidelines in terms of the ordered way in which we roll out the vaccine. And as you said, that's been working. It's been a very effective rollout, and we would suggest that people should do it in the correct order, in the right way.
But would the government try to put pressure on an authority like Bolton to stop that then?
I don't know the actual details of what's going on in Bolton, but I don't think, we've got very firm guidelines and we want people to follow those.
But what they're obviously actively trying to do is stop the spread of the Indian variant amongst the younger population, and as a result, try to avoid the possibility, at least, of a local lockdown for that area. I mean, but if they can source the vaccines to do that, isn't that a wise approach?
I can see what they're trying to do. I can see exactly what they're trying to do. But what I've said is that I think there's a really good way that we've managed to roll out the vaccine. You yourself acknowledged that it's been very successful, and we would urge people to follow the guidelines that we've set out and the method that we've used.
Within all of this, obviously, and within your remit, the hospitality sector has been so badly hit. They're looking forward to getting up and running a lot more at the moment. There's a report claiming 10% of restaurants have closed down. The last thing anyone wants to do is reopen to be shut down again. But there's no guarantee, is there, that come June we may have to look at all this again? Yeah,
we've been very clear. That's why there were the 5-week staging posts. There's got to be flexibility. But as business secretary, I know, and I hear it every day, the immense pressure that hospitality and retail has experienced. There's a huge amount of anxiety, jobs. People want to open up the economy so that they can get trading again and get back to normality, and I completely understand that. That's why we had the roadmap, and that's why I fully expect that we'll be reopened on the 21st of June. You still think, despite the concern over Indian variant, that could happen? I think it's very likely to happen. I said that I think the vaccines are working against the Indian variant. I think we've got to look at the numbers, so we've got some flexibility. But there's nothing that I've seen, and there's nothing that the Prime Minister has seen up to now that suggests that we're going to delay that 21st of June date. The problem is, though, is that when you look at people heading out and about, it's not exclusively the younger end of the population who haven't been vaccinated, but it's more likely to. I'm in my 40s and I don't feel like going out anymore. Speak for yourself. Well, no, but it is likely to be the younger, unvaccinated people who are going to go out, isn't it? Yeah, look, there are risks in this, and we can't say now, we can't guarantee that everything will be fine. What we can do is, and we've said this consistently, is that we'll look at the data and we'll make judgments according to the data that we see. So far, so good. We're reopening on the 17th of May, as we said we should, in the way that we said we would. And now we have to see what happens ahead of the 21st of June. I'm confident that we'll be able to get to the 21st of June and open up normally, but I can't guarantee that now.
OK. Minister, good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.